The second hype matchup of the day is upon us. Edward Gaming versus Team WE El Ocho, the CLG and TSM rivalry of the LPL. Welcome back, everyone. My name's Tom. Once again, we've got Clement here with us, and we have got to get right into this because we saw how swift and efficient IG and Rogue Warriors were. We feel like we should try to replicate that pace.
We should match that.
Absolutely.
So, quickly, first things to note, EDG versus WE, it's a really hype, it's a legacy matchup, but they have big differences in the way they like to win. WE are much more of a late game team, they win later, then they lose. EDG on the flip side, however, much more of a mid game team. They win a lot faster than they lose. So it will be about who can spike at the right times.
We'll have to see if that's going to be the case, though, because there's a lot that goes into this. Scout in the mid lane for EDG has been stepping up lately on Azir. Sometimes he's been a bit of a double-edged sword for them, but now it seems like he's finally got some speed, some wind under his wings to help carry his team to victory. But we're going to be getting into the lineups in just a moment. EDG, you can see on stage, they've brought the A team, Ray, Haro, Scout, iBoy, and Mako as they make their way onto the stage to deal with their legacy opponents.
Yep, still a very strong team here. EDG, of course, finding themselves in a bit of a jumble right here. They're still sitting at second place in terms of the Western Conference, but it's going to be very hard for them to actually move up against Snake. And now we have Magic, again, another team that is in a bit of a rebuilding phase. Two new players on their team in terms of Magic and Celestial.
And they're going to have to put in some really big work if they want to try to claim this matchup and, of course, claim their playoff spot because they have not clinched it just yet. As we can see, 957, Magic, Xie, Mystic, and Celestial, EDG. We've already gone through it. Ray, Haro, Scout, iBoy, and Mako.
Yep, big matchup we're looking for is in the mid lane. It's going to come down to roaming versus ganks. So the new WE really functions on the duo between Xie and Magic. They gank a lot, they pressure mid lane a lot, but for Scout, it's actually a very different story. He wants to move out of the lane as soon as possible, get with his team, link up with Mako, and get those 3v3 skirmishes going on inside the enemy jungle. That's why his Talia is so dangerous.
And this is where we look to the impact of these players on their teams, the effect that they have. Scout really has sort of limited himself towards that mid lane, but now that he's starting to move around a little bit more, a match for EDG, and that comes down to the conversation for these two teams. EDG trying to rebuild without Clear Love, with Haro coming in, whereas WE, they're doing the same with Magic and Celestial.
Yeah, and that's why I really do give it to EDG in this matchup. I feel like EDG's bot lane is the only part that isn't rebuilding. iBoy and Mako probably the strongest lane in the LPL so far. Celestial hasn't really proven his stripes, so I do feel like EDG had the edge here.
Well, we'll have to see if they do indeed. That said, our casters are ready to get us into game. As we go, though, let's hear what Mako thinks about that bottom lane matchup.
就 WE 也换了新辅助嘛，然后我觉得他们最近配合也挺不错的，但是可能跟队伍的话磨合没有很久吧，就是没有我和 iBoy 就是磨合了那么久，然后配合的更娴熟一点吧。然后我觉得我们下路跟他们打的话，应该就是在对线方面或者就是沟通方面可能会就是比他们做得更好吧。
Mako actually with a lot of praise there for the enemy bot lane, despite them being very new to each other, but we're still gonna win, Rusty.
Yeah, look, that's a progression from Mako. I'm very excited to see him say anything like we might win. He's usually very reserved in his opinions, so I have high hopes for EDG's bottom lane at the very least from that alone.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't ultimatum though, it was like, we might win. That's as far as Mako will possibly go in those interviews. But WE versus EDG, we're getting into picks and bans. Talia, Varus, and Camille would be the ban out from WE. On the opposite side, EDG will take away the Swain, the Tamkench, and the Narc.
Now, of course, WE on blue side, EDG on red with Swain gone. We saw a lot of Olaf priority from IG in the last set, so that's always a possibility. Jungle is usually a place to look towards, especially between both of these teams' Pulse. Now, naturally, with a bunch of other lanes still available and perhaps Xie being preferenced, there are still other options, but Olaf is always the place to look first.
Yeah, there's always those super high priority picks that will just make a splash, a very big difference in the game, and you have to pick them up, and the first one will be Olaf going over to Magic as well. And Magic, obviously, he's not Condi, but he has been able to adapt into the team, has been trying to assimilate and try and find his place in the team as well. So Olaf definitely going to help him out here. EDG, let's see if they actually choose to pick up their own jungler since they know what the matchup is going to be now.
This would still be perfectly fine. Haro's most played champion, of course, with 12 respective games. Now he's going to lock it in for a 13th time. Alongside this, my question, this would be curious. They've actually gone towards the Xayah. They've left open the opportunity for a Rakan to be taken from them if they would please. But really, you see a Xayah lock in, you just insta-lock Caitlyn Alistar and you say, let's dance.
Let's rumble. Let's Let's go ahead and just roll this lane out. WE are looking at the Caitlyn currently. Matched up well into that Xayah. And they have indeed locked it in. Now, the question is, do they look to take away the Rakan here? Do you look to even just lock in the Alistar, as he said, right now and just get the lane matchup and then give EDG an opportunity on the next phase of bans to try and take that one away?
We did hint towards the priority in the middle lane, however, so we'll have to see which lane they prioritize, and it does seem that they want to go towards the mid lane in this instance, giving over the opportunity for EDG to lock in the Rakan. I don't think they can afford to do this. Yes, it could be a flex. But Rakan could just be banned and maybe it's not as good a flex.
Yeah, so they'll just lock in the Rakan right here. Won't give WE the opportunity to take it away. Now back over to EDG for the bans. Now they can definitely target the support pool here, as you already alluded to, Rusty. Take away the Alistar, take away anything that really gives that bottom lane any trouble.
You saw the hover of the Braum. I think that Alistar and Braum are two very viable options. Of course, the first ban's still a support, not going to be that. The reason that we don't often mention Morgana in the LPL is she just hasn't existed until this week. Yeah. She's started to exist very often now, but not till now. So it's good to see the adaptations there from EDG, of course. These teams scrim during the week. They have some preparation for one another.
Has just come back into the meta indeed in the LPL. Vladimir would be the ban here against EDG, targeting out Ray and Scout respectively. And now looking towards EDG for their final ban right here as well. See if it will be another bot lane ban, and there's the Alistar as well. So definitely saw that one coming from a mile away.
Certainly did. Now, the Braum is still available, and that's definitely one of the bigger expectations to follow through with the composition of Team WE. And if you have a Caitlyn Braum, you're looking at the remaining player in perhaps the top lane here for 957 getting something like the Gnar. And I think that may be where the priority then shifts for EDG. They may actually even look for a fourth pick of a top laner to try and prevent perhaps the optimal pick in that role, respectively. While saying that, they may still hide that top lane and counter it as they are on red side.
Possible. WE will take away that Azir against Scout to round out the picks and bans, though I will say I prefer Scout's Talia over that one, though that has also been banned, so everything we've seen Scout go towards recently has been taken off the table, so EDG may actually just block in the Cassiopeia right now. They already know that it's probably going to be a Galio matchup in the mid lane, so we don't know how that one's going to pan out.
Yeah, Cassiopeia matches up quite nicely against the likes of a Galio. As we look at the mid lane matchup now, WE also have to show their hand for the respective top side. We mentioned perhaps something like the Gnar. It's just the safest top lane pick. There is no direct counter, so to speak, besides the abstract champions, such as your Aurelias and your Yasuos.
Sure. I will say one of the hardest counters to Gnar is banning him out, which is what EDG have done here.
Oh, have they?
Where? It's in the first place. WE will pick up the Gangplank, however, and throw that into the top lane.
Damn it.
Your analysis on point, Rusty.
Hey, we came in like
in
4 bans deep. It's like, all right, we're looking forwards. Damn. Nah, no matter. Gangplank, of course, still a very good lock-in. You're expecting perhaps an Ornn on the opposite side. I'm now checking the bans before I say anything like that. Cool. They could look towards something like an Ornn if they'd like, but it's Ray. He's got a very diverse champion pool.
Indeed, WE will finish off their composition with Leona, though, in the bottom lane. And EDG, you're right, it's Ray. He's got a massive champion pool. We've seen him go towards the tanks at the start of the split. Then he's starting to diversify as well with the carries, and he will lock in the Fiora as well. So pretty much 957 kind of opened himself up for that Fiora pick, and we'll see if he can actually just demolish Gangplank in the top lane.
If I'm reading this correctly, this is his 17th champion in the top lane this split.
Holy moly.
He's played a lot of champions. That is an absurd amount. First time he'll be playing Fiora here, but of course into the Gangplank matchup, it's very simple to execute. You see the kegs, you riposte the kegs. There's not a lot of other trading that a Gangplank can have, and of course that's a little bit later. Should be perfectly fine in that lane. EDG's whole composition right now has a lot of diversity in the way that they could execute it.
What does that diversity look like, Rusty? Because what I'm looking at right now is a split pushing Fiora and then probably a 4.
Yeah, they could have a 1-4 composition. In saying that, they don't necessarily need to rely fully on the 1-4. We've seen teamfight Fioras from the likes of the Shy, and for the rest of the composition, Xayah, Rakan very strong in lane. Cassiopeia has a lot of protection for that as well. So they could play a siege type of comp, but that's where I would say that they wouldn't want to do that. They'd rather actually play around vision control. This is Mako's playground, basically, with the way that EDG have drafted for themselves. If they can set up vision control and players that they would like, bring WE to them, I would say that is the optimal EDG style that they'll be running in this first game.
So EDG looking for control on the opposite side. WE, yes, they're still playing with these 2 new members, but they have been with the team for a good couple of weeks now, and we've pretty much got a good idea of where they want to move, especially Magic, the guy you can see on your screen right now, typically moves towards the mid lane. It's like, well, if I can get Xie ahead, then maybe we can just win the game through mid.
Of course. As if there is any other way to play League of Legends at the moment if you are Team WE. It's just get Xie rolling. Now, we have seen a little bit more focus towards Mystic down in the bottom lane of recent weeks, but you'd still be looking towards mid lane first. Get mid going, then translate all of that to bottom because it is a Galio composition. Olaf Galio going bottom lane, very dangerous as a 2v2, especially with the Galio ultimate on top of a Ragnarok Dola. But if they both contribute with a Leona, not a lot of ways to get out alive.
Pretty safe bet to put all your eggs in the Xie basket, but we're about to get onto the Rift here for EDG versus WE. You know, I actually think the crowd is louder here for the second game than they were for the first. Like, I don't know if it can get more full, but it does seem denser.
It felt like they're still going. They're really feeling it. It's Team WE against EDG. It's a rivalry that has been around for a very long time, so I can understand the passion being there. And I thought the crowd was just full of Rogue Warrior fans. We were misled.
Well,
there is secret chairs.
Maybe they were both.
There was trapdoors.
I know if I was buying a ticket today, I'd just literally just sit in that chair all day. Wouldn't let anyone take that one away from me. But yeah, of course, WE, EDG, historic matchup for sure. But we do have a bunch of different players, you know, from the olden days of, you know, EDG's roster. Even the WE family that kind of has broken apart now in the LPL. We've got Magic, we've got Celestial. You can take a look at Mako and iBoy looking for this small invade, but they will be met by Mystic and Celestial, who will meet them in the brush and look for a bit of damage here on Mako. And iBoy trading back onto Celestial here.
Just some super nice level 1 trading from each bottom lane respectively, actually. Mako, of course, playing the Rakan will have some sustain. Leona will have to use those potions, has the Targons, however, or the Relic Shield, rather, to get some extra health themselves. So it's just the supports that have lost health. Never really means anything, actually, down there in the bottom lane. Level 2 is what you'd be looking towards.
No, level 1, Mako still wants to go in here against Mystic, just trading blows, really. But Celestial has been chunked out.
I do mean kill threat, for the record, at level 2. If they kill someone at level 1, I will actually be beyond shocked. But EDG, they do love their Xayah Rakan lately.
They do, and it's playing into Leona as well. It's like, well, if you can chunk out Leona early and she gets to that level 2, then she doesn't really want to engage on you, does she? And iBoy will continue putting the hurt down onto Mystic.
They've won the level 2 trade here, EDG, unless Mystic can zone them away, which he has in part at least been able to do. However, they'll still tick over. Mystic very safely uses a summoner spell to keep himself alive in that trade because he did overstep.
Yeah, he saw that level 2 pop, was like, I don't want any of that. Rakan could jump on top of me and possibly take me out. And we'll see this level 2. Not really look for the engage just yet from Celestial. Now, we are taking a look at Haru right here, and I do feel like this matchup will be focused here around the junglers. If you look towards WE and EDG in the last couple of weeks and you look towards their problems, it has actually rotated around the jungle for both teams.
Yeah, it definitely has. Much more philosophically about how these teams operate as well, as we'll see some trading in mid lane. It's about how those junglers can influence the map, and what that really means. Haru has joined, he's replaced Clearlove, which is a very prolific member of the team to try and step in for. He's a shot caller, he's an experienced member, but they've got Mako. So Mako can still shot call. Haru just needs to be an able mechanical body at the moment, where they can still control him, and that's perfectly fine for EDG to succeed. The other side, Magic, I mean, he's replaced Condi, and there isn't really that person who can continue to shot call for the team because Ben's gone as well. It's Celestial, and he's been mechanically fine, Celestial, but we don't know the inner workings of Team WE. And one of the new players usually play a big part of the shot calling with the roles they're in for early game. That's a hard thing to replicate.
Now, a lot of what you just said was theoreticals, and what we've actually seen is that Haru has not really been... Whoa, in the bottom lane! Mystic's just gonna straight up die to iBoy and Mako, aggressing on him, and Celestial no longer has a marksman.
Mystic had no heal, and they still had the Ignite on the side of EDG, and suddenly they just get themselves the kill. This unrelenting pressure from the 2v2 bottom lane of EDG.
There's an opportunity for Celestial to engage here with Mana coming in from behind and the teleport out from WE, but the heal comes through. Can EDG open up in this distance, or can they find a kill onto Celestial? Flash forward from Xie, he's going to get the return kill, and Mako now is getting corralled back into enemy lines, and Mako here to fall as well.
And they should give the kill over to Xie at the end. I think they're just waiting. Yep, they'll give the second kill, making sure that he does get one of them. Big counterplay from Team WE. It started off so strong for EDG, and they overstepped, trying to get some extra damage, some gold even from the Rakan onto the turret. And just like that, Xie steps up massive.
That's that rotation you were talking about in Champion Select as well from WE, and I feel like their style has been much more binary, but that's a good thing when you have these new players coming into the roster. If you just have one win condition, one way you play the early game, well, just rinse and repeat. If it works, just don't fix it.
I've even noticed with this particular bottom lane 2v2 of iBoy and Mako, they play overly aggressive as Xayah and Rakan. Something that we saw the last time was that they'd step up too far and they would get legitimately punished by their opponents. This time around, it works because they get the kill, but they still get punished by overstepping after the fact. So this is something that we've seen more as a trend now from EDG's 2v2 in the bottom lane with just this setup of champions. I like that WE were ready to respond, able to respond, and that it didn't need to be 9-5-7. He's very occupied at the moment with Ray.
He very much has to focus on that top lane right here. Speaking of the top lane, haven't really spoken about it just yet, though 957 is going to walk into the brush and just delay the recall here from Ray. It's not like he can kill him without any mana, but Fiora has gone for the Kleptomancy into this lane. It's very easy for Fiora to proc it into the Gangplank, but what's interesting is the Gangplank has done the same. Typically, we've seen into harder matchups, Gangplank recently has been picking up a lot of the grass of the Undying.
Yeah, it's not a tank matchup. As bottom lane fighting
well,
again.
Mystic is just very low and about to die is again. Mako will just finish him off with an auto attack, and honestly, Rusty, I don't expect 2v2 kills to happen continuously like this.
Yeah, we're talking casually bottom lane, it's just, oh my god, they're dead every single time we look down here. iBoy and Mako, this pressure cooker that they've got going on in the bottom lane is really paying off, and it feels like they're forcing Mystic to flinch under the pressure, and then they're capitalizing on that flinch. They're getting themselves kills, and even past those kills now, look at the minions that are being missed under that turret. That's a 14 CS advantage, with most of those minions going away on a cannon wave is gone as well. Now it's an experience lead, it's a gold lead, it's an item lead, and all EDG need to do is bring Haro down once. And you would imagine that it just cascades and gets so bad for WE.
Now, we didn't really see the setup to the first kill or the second kill, really, but what has to go wrong in that lane for a Caitlyn to die against the Xayah Rakan? Because they're meant to be better, you know, moving backwards than they are forwards.
We had the pleasure of actually watching it as well. It's the level 1. It's how you play towards getting level 2. The Caitlyn Leona want to be able to threaten constantly. You know, Leona wants to step up, use the Relic Shield on the wave, and ensure that they get level 2 first. Instead of doing that, Mystic does overstep because he wants to zone them from minions. They lost control, and that's a byproduct of Xayah Rakan just being able to push so well in tandem by being that duo, having control of the lane at level 1, preventing Caitlyn from getting that strength and getting that foothold down. But because Mystic oversteps too far, not only do they lose the push, they get punished from the push. And just like that, EDG are able to control the lane.
They end up dying, but in the mid lane, there has been a pretty good CS advantage now being picked up by Scout because she has been having to rotate and roam towards these plays as well. So, plus it is also a Galio Cassiopeia lane, so much harder for Galio to try and CS in this one versus the Cassiopeia. But yeah, now it's got a couple levels in Winds of War. It's more easy to just two-shot the backline.
This is an awkward position for it to be leashed towards, but I can understand why Magic's done it. He's running straight towards the red buff. You're right, the CS advantage is there for Scout. Blue buff's just going to be traded as well. But the kill that they got in the bottom lane for Xie, of course, the extra caution that he does get the kill is what equalizes the gold difference. So if you're in a lane that's a full pressure placed lane where Scout should be controlling you in the 1v1 and you just want to clear, going even, still a pretty good outcome.
Right now, WE, they do have access to the ultimates as well, as does EDG. Haro has hit level 6, so we will have that prison to lock someone down, but it's actually Olaf who's going to be coming into the bottom lane first. Celestial comes in for the engage with his jungler right here, but he's gone very deep. Here comes the Galio as well to slam down and splatter iBoy.
And just dunks the AD carry of EDG. A summoner spell missing, but no flash to keep him alive or keep him safe. Now Haro has to come down here just to ensure that the tower will stay alive, and WE, they find their foothold. They actually get to bounce back from the constant onslaught that EDG are applying to this bottom lane 2v2, and they are not done. They're still looking to keep pressure down here. Whether it's a dive or kills or not, they're still keeping that pressure going. Big shift in momentum.
Luckily, Haro was in the area, comes down as well to prevent another possible dive coming out of Magic. He sees that, he backs away, he knows that the enemy jungle just wastes the time. He can go back into his own jungle, farm some more and try and increase his advantage that he's been already getting in this early game. So Magic, you know, he's looking for these ganks in the early game, and so far it's working out. 100% kill participation.
And the thing that you have to pay the most attention to here is WE's composition. You know, we spoke in a bit of detail about what EDG can do for themselves, especially once they start to scale up. They've got a Cassiopeia to protect the Xayah Rakan, and the split push always there from the Fiora. WE wanted to hit 6. They may have been losing lane, they may have been having a bit of a rough time down there, but the second they hit 6, a Galio ultimate, Olaf sprinting at them, Leona as well to engage, and knowing that EDG had no summoner spells at that point to try and prevent a gank, that was very obvious that it was going to happen the way that it did. But that doesn't mean EDG can stop it from happening. It's very hard to prevent.
It is, but at the same time, you know, you also look to the jungle if you're EDG, and it's like, well, what's Haro doing in the meantime? Is he ganking cross-map? Is he trying to put pressure onto top lane? Is he looking towards the mid lane even, try and push down a tower wall? Usually Haro, when he arrives to plays, someone else ends up dying. So Ray actually is up in CS most times against his lane opponent, but down in gold because Haro just misganks in top lane, and then he just ends up dying, giving top lane gold.
The unfortunate Haro problem where he wants to help, but he actually hurts. And you're right, Haro's the place that we have to look at, especially when WE are able to make these plays. And so we look at him right now as an example. He pinged himself being at Krugs just before recalling. EDG play respectful. They play safe and they back away. Olaf was in fact on the bottom side of the map. So for what it's worth, EDG are at least aware of where their jungler is. But perhaps that doesn't mean he's in the right place. It just means that they can't do what they want to counter what WE are pushing at them.
It's really that synergy that isn't quite there yet, but we can see both mid laners at 11 MVPs apiece right now, coming into week 9 of the LPL. We'll see who can take the split MVP, the regular season MVP after this one.
He always does it. Like, Scout is one of the most hit or miss players in the league, but when he hits, he gets an MVP, without fail. The fact that he's got 11, I'm surprised. I'll be honest with you.
I mean, I understand it, right? You have those peaks and you have those troughs. If you're a middle of the road mid laner who does okay to good every single game, you're probably not going to get those MVPs. However, if you're Scout and like, okay, one game, I may have lost it for the team, but the next game I just completely obliterate the game, then I'm probably going to get that one.
It's a hard thing to have as a mid laner in a league, though. If you're playing a league in best of threes for a long split, not sure you can always afford to have a mid laner that sporadic. You want consistency through the most important lane, in my opinion, of course, in the game and competitive. But it works.
It works, you know, and it's been a rocky road. You're absolutely right in the first couple of weeks of play. Just looking towards Sheer here. Doesn't quite land the charm, or the taunt rather. Magic also rocks up to the mid lane. It's going to be a 2 versus 2 as Scout is trying to zone away this Olaf. Here comes the support out from Sheer, giving the extra resistances as well. But they're actually turning onto this Galio. And Mako's coming in from the bottom lane. Celestial looking for the protection right here. But the Rakan is into the back lines. Mystic arrives to the play. And the re-engage comes in from Celestial. Horror's going to go down. And iBoy takes so much damage. He has to go with the Feather Storm. But he's being locked onto. Can Mako get in the way? Yes, he can. But now Scout is under attack. There are so many low members. Scout, can he go big? He's looking for one, finds the second, looking for the third. Scout kills everybody, and now Mystic in this 1 versus 2 will eventually go down. What a play from Scout.
Scout is a legitimate hero, you say. Make or break for the team. Well, he made it right there in that entire team fight. 3 big kills. The flash forwards, everything you want to see from the mid laner of EDG. Well, he goes on display there, and he goes insane, allowing space for Mako and iBoy to clean up the remnants of that fight. EDG, they do get the massive victory, and we get to see how this started as well. Magic walks towards Haro, they engage, and they choose to fight each other. But Shie is very far out of position. He just wants to buy time, wants to hold on. And Mako's going to be here first. Now, the bottom lane of WE actually have the inside track to get here second before iBoy. And a lot of trap stepping happens here, unfortunately, for both iBoy and for Haro. But the ultimate was perfectly timed from iBoy. It actually gets rid of the trap headshot, so he's able to reset. And now it's Scout. All the Scout show, the confident flash forwards, knowing that he had the kill. The cleanse timing was great, even ensuring that he gets the third, forcing a flash out of Mystic. Rest of the team fight, simple cleanup. That's just big plays from Scout.
I mean, straight up, that was just the opposite of the commentator's curse. We were talking about Scout, how he has these peaks, how he has these troughs, immediately comes in with a peak. So Magic, Sheer, they're looking to try and shut down this snake in the mid lane, but he's going to back away.
I was going to say, just check yourself, because as you're talking about him, now's a good chance for him to get caught out. WE was stalking. They were looking for him. But I mean, we gave ourselves an out. We said he's inconsistent.
Yep.
He showed how high he can actually be when he wants to be. And all he needs to do is not show the lows. And we're good.
But that would make him a consistent mid laner.
Yeah, that's what we want.
WE are still here. They've been here probably for a good minute now.
He has no summoners.
I mean, Haro, they can literally see him, but they're immediately going to dive on top of Scout. He's used the ultimate already, and Olaf, he's not going to stop. No one can stop the Berserker, but Haro, he stands in front, and the teleports, that can stop him. In comes Celestial, he finds the lockdown, and Mystic with the headshot. Haro backs away, but he's actually coming in with Ray right now because he has the support in from the bottom lane. The cavalry has arrived. Mako with the triple charm. iBoy finds the kill into Celestial.
And you know what? I'm not going to blame Scout for that one whatsoever. The patience displayed from Team WE to find him at all was admirable. They do get themselves Scout in the end, but at what cost, you always have to ask yourself. And you still feel like EDG came out ahead in that trade. And now they're able to push, clear waves. Teleports are gone from each respective top laner. Teleport not available for Xie in the mid lane. And just constant skirmishes around this area of the map. Both teams were displayed where they want to carry. And Xie, yes, he is the pivotal point of Team WE. EDG have said, let's do it. Let's fight around the mid lane. Let's make these big plays happen. Scout still plays it very well.
Yeah, they're going for this engage, and it looks like Olaf is unstoppable. It's like, uh-oh, my Ragnarok's running out, and here comes Ray. There's just so much push, tug and pull in this fight. You know, the re-engage coming out from EDG and the re-engage coming out from WE as the rest of the team arrives.
Yeah, fancy feat, of course, from Scout to survive as long as he did. Ray also gets an assassination on the back end, and that Fiora getting a kill, having the Ravenous Hydra build. Things start to get awfully scary if you're a top laner against him.
Yeah, for sure. 957 will be pushed in, and he will start to just lose the war of attrition, which is what Fiora will be doing here in the top lane. Xie so pushing away Haro and Scout, because they feel confident enough now to push into the jungle and try and harass Magic, of course, out, and also take his camps away. And EDG aren't going to stop there. It's going to come down as well, cut into the bottom side of the jungle, ward up the red buff as well.
The thing that we have to look towards next for both teams is where a tower is going to go down. Something that we haven't seen yet. It's 6 to 8 in kills at 16 minutes. That's pretty ridiculous given that no objectives realistically have been focused from it. All of it's skirmish play. They want to get a lead, they want to get the kill first, and then maybe look towards the objective. But how quickly these teams react and how back and forth the trades have been, because there's been deaths in every single one, it's so hard to go for the objective afterwards. So what you're expecting now for both teams, particularly EDG, as they're starting to feel some tempo, they've got some item spikes, you know, they're getting that advantage, is to slow the game down, go back to basics, and look towards objectives all over again.
You know, this is such a big departure as well from the typical WE style that we saw from the original roster. You know, it's like we would expect to go slow, absorb the pressure, and that's what made them so good. They were just the ultimate bullet sponge because no one could break through them. They bounced back in the late game T-fight. Game over. But WE now, they're focusing on these lanes, looking for those skirmishes. And you can see it very evident in this game that they have been going for that. And EDG so far have been coming out ahead, but we're seeing trades up in pressure. Bot lane tower went down, first tower to EDG. They're pushing through to the inner. That was traded for the Herald, however, and WE are pushing up the top side, but this is EDG getting drastically far ahead.
Yeah, they are. Now, there is a Rift Herald if they wanted to try and get an extra turret, try and equalize the trades. Ultimately, it's a Cloud Drake for EDG on the bottom side of the map, but 2 turrets and disengage is best case scenario for EDG. Was how slow WE were to the punch on making any kind of plays. Now it's more about counterplay. They get 1 turret for 2, they trade it down, and now they need to defend mid.
Mako is constantly looking for these engages because he can play up, knowing that Zai's right behind him. Here comes the engage out from Xie, but now he has to walk through the miasma and through the prison out from Haro. They detonate the mid laner. And Mystic, he'll try and kite away, but everyone is just running for the hills because EDG find 2.
They're still going. Scout constantly trying to find a pick. Ray is pushing top lane out of turret as we speak. And EDG with momentum in mid lane can choose to pressure. There's no way that Magic can defend this turret. And that's not even just a trade up anymore. It's just a comprehensive victory across the board.
EDG, no matter how you slice it, are winning the numbers game right here. Ray's in the top lane 1 versus 0. The mid lane was 4 versus 5, and they still managed to win. They take 2 turrets, they move towards the dragon, and this is a massive swing now from EDG.
There is a very big power point on the Rift, which is why this is all able to happen in the first place, and that is a 2-item mid laner of EDG. The fact that Scout can have a Rylai's and the Seraph's Embrace upgraded at 18 minutes, have a blue buff, and then set his team up to push in mid lane. There is no one able to contest him right now. And how aggressively, how confidently he's able to play on the Rift is very evidenced in that last skirmish that gets them the turret.
Well, sure. Now, EDG, let's take a look at the damage. They're about 5,000 gold ahead of WE. You can see 4 turrets to 1 currently. And EDG have complete control now. Going back onto the map, you can see they've pretty much all just bought control wars. The only person who hasn't is iBoy because he's max slots right now. Maybe he could sell the core, but we're not talking about that.
2 creeps off a cull.
Yeah, so
being upgraded, so he might sell it after that.
Yeah, but for now, EDG obviously want to move into the jungle, creep up their vision, and try and consolidate their resources.
WE have a lot of wave clear, however. So whilst EDG are able to continue to push the advantage forwards, play the vision game, work around the Baron that's going to be up in 30 seconds, there's no Infernal Drake for quite some time. If the Baron is the point of focus, I think that is the best case scenario for EDG. We already spoke towards their composition strengths. put Ray bottom, which is where he is now, establish vision control at the Baron itself and have river control, and then use it to generate picks. Xayah, Rakan, Cassiopeia, and Sejuani all very good at doing exactly that. WE fully cottoned onto that fact. They are right now warding the heck out of the river. They do not want EDG to have absolute control. And that's the way into this game. If a lot of the game is about mid lane priority into vision control, WE still have an abundance of wave clear. As long as EDG don't have Baron, WE can stay in the game.
Sure, and WE, they're not playing like they're so far behind. They're actually moving up into their jungle, making sure that at least the shallow vision is still there for themselves. And EDG, if they're pressing into the jungle, maybe they can clear some of the vision away. Because if they don't, then obviously Baron becomes very difficult, as it will be completely in the dark here. And EDG are just roaming the river.
I think we just saw iBoy throw feathers intentionally missing. Because if you look at the Baron, you can sometimes see the animation through Fog of War on certain spells. I think that those feathers are one of those. I need to confirm that. But sometimes you can do that. The enemy team will think that you've hit the objective, but because you have vision control, it's only one way for them to check. And with that sense of urgency, they'll occasionally face check.
That's really interesting. Just a small note there from iBoy. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, I feel like the Herald was about to time out, but WE have to try and move on this one.
He did do it, by the way. iBoy's got 2 control wards, not just 1.
What a team player.
He knows fully well what the state of the game is, or Mako knows and told him. We don't know. I assume it's the latter.
Yeah, I mean, Mako is definitely iBoy's handler. If left to his own devices, he would absolutely not buy those control wards.
That's such a harsh way to explain it, but you're absolutely correct. Here's the mechanics.
Yeah.
iBoy is the man that will get the job done. You just have to point him in a direction, push him in that direction, and he'll do it. Yes. Mako is not a handler. iBoy is the weapon.
Hey, you can be a handler of a weapon.
It feels... I get something else with the word handler.
Oh, okay, maybe.
Like pet handler. You know what?
Gotcha. Well, EDG, for now, are just going to ward up all of this area continuously, and the fact that they just have more resources means they can just keep putting control wards, one after another, and pretty much just dry up WE's own resources. Magic is going to find Mako, nice little sidestep.
They've actually been able to step up to the enemy blue buff quadrant of the jungle as well. Pushing forwards, getting vision that deep does enable them to play more aggressively with that information. This is good for Magic, however, being able to use the axe to get vision at the very least.
This is scary, though, because if EDG had complete vision of Magic, or vice versa, Magic probably wouldn't be there, but EDG would probably just look to nuke down Olaf.
So the window of opportunity for EDG is like 5 seconds from now. They're taking it, actually.
Not even 5 seconds, because they've just found Magic walking up to the bush once again. Here comes the flash out from Mako, and doesn't get the CC, but Scout finds the twin fight, and Sheer doesn't want to be here anymore, but you're staying with us. You can't just punch away. The second kill out from Scout. Celestial flashes away, and Gangplank is too late to the party.
And Ray's still pushing bottom lane, so they have to send the Gangplank back, which means the Baron should be completely free for EDG. They play it out expertly, as you would expect. They slow the pace of the game down. They control the vision game, and now it looks like a 1v1's the only way in for Team WE.
Ballsy play from 957 to run after Ray, but he has the rest of his team chasing him down. Ray has recognized this even after issuing the grand challenge. Now he just has to try and escape from that Fiora, but that last little lunge was enough distance to open up, and that was 3 members moving to the bottom lane. Didn't get the kill, and EDG take the Baron.
Yeah, they can't catch him. Trinity Force in the Q cooldown is far too low. EDG playing this one out picture perfect at the moment. It all starts with controlling the vision, having a composition to excel at doing exactly that. The reason that I said 5 seconds is within a 5-second window, the mid lane was about to crash again, but they take their chance. It's a Rylai's on the Cassiopeia, remember that. So the slows are always going to be there. Magic is just left to die. And the Galio comes in, maybe wanted to use the taunt here to be tanky, but chooses to try and punch himself to safety and gets knocked up as he goes backwards before forwards. With everyone dead just like that, free Baron.
Free Baron, bunch of resources to EDG. Around 8,000 gold ahead, plus they have this Baron buff to try and open up an even bigger gold lead. 4 people in the mid lane right now, and Ray still in that bottom lane pushing away. And hey, there's still an inner turret, but he's trying to pressure this inhibitor tower right now, because so far, it seems like EDG are winning every 4 versus 5 they put in.
They certainly are. They're just setting up the fights, they're engaging the fights, and they're doing everything first, which means there's no real opportunity for WE to respond. With this turret falling as well, the pressure will continue. They haven't set up top lane. And just looking at mid and bottom, lanes are very close to each other, so WE are still in with a chance to defend this Baron push at the very least, but there's always the disengage from EDG at a moment's notice to go towards the Infernal. I do think that's what they should be looking towards after a couple more waves. Still give it a go.
give it a crack, but they are just pushing up these waves right now. They want to try and make the most of this Baron buff. Plus, they can also just, you know, wander on back towards that dragon. But as long as they can step up right here, maybe get iBoy in range. But Xayah, kind of difficult to step up into this line of traps as well. And plus, you're also Xayah, so your range is not going to be as long as a Caitlyn. But slowly, this mid tower is being whittled down.
Yeah, enabling it is a very complicated process for EDG. Someone has to tank a trap. And it should usually be Haro that has to do that, but in the last push it was actually Mako who steps up and then dashes backwards to safety. Of course, Mako has the cleanse, so he's actually pretty easy to disengage with if WE try and take an advantageous fight on him or try and get a pick from it.
And there's Haro, but on that trap, here comes the engage out from Celestial, who's got an almost instant die, and Ray is into the backlines. He's flanking, but now he's by himself. He dies to 957, and EDG, they'll back away.
The timing from Xie on that taunt was sick, and they do change their targets and their focus very nicely from Team WE. Aggressive from EDG, needlessly so. As a countermeasure to WE going forwards and engaging, they choose to go in themselves. I don't think Ray needed to step that far up.
He probably felt like that was going to go much better, that EDG were going to just push right into the tower. There's going to be someone tanking, but EDG weren't really feeling it, and Ray was on the wrong side of the wall, so.
It's not the first time we've seen communication issues with Ray and the rest of his team, and that's not a surprise given that it's his first split returning to the organization and to this squad, having a couple of new members in it as well for himself to contend with.
Yeah, Ray's one of the strongest strengths that he's had in the top lane. It's just his diversity. The fact that he has such a big, effective champion pool, it's actually crazy how much this guy can play.
17 champions. How many top laners are there? I'd
Probably
imagine there's
17.
a lot.
He's probably played all of them.
I mean, he's got Urgot games in there. He's got Renekton games in there.
The only top lane pick that I can think that someone else has played this split that he hasn't is Zoom's Yorick pick. That is like the only top lane pick that I think Ray hasn't picked up this split.
Yeah, it's an abstract top laner. I actually think Yorick's pretty good in the jungle compared to top. With all these level 4 junglers running around.
Yep, Yorick is definitely, you just go into the jungle, you don't see Yorick for about 15 minutes and he walks out with 3 items. You're like, okay, well, it's time to rumble.
How did this happen for him to have 3 items? But let's hopefully never see a Yorick in the jungle. Let's look at the game at hand and pretend that never happened.
For now, EDG are spacing out, moving into the lanes, trying to push in all 3 lanes at the same time. They don't have Baron buff anymore, so it's slightly harder for them to straight up just walk up to these inhibitor towers. But EDG controlling the map means all the resources go over to them, all the jungle camps, and they'll have control over Dragon and Baron when it spawns.
And interestingly, EDG are still choosing to group up as 4. I feel like when Scout is this far ahead, there is a world where they could try and 1-3-1, because who's going to deal with the Cassiopeia by herself in a side lane? Yes, they could send a Galio with a teleport, the ultimate to go to join the rest of the team. It doesn't mean that Xie can 1v1 Scout. So there's always a world where EDG could look towards that, especially without a Baron buff. And they need to diversify their way that they want to push, move around the map, and try and get themselves further structures. The gold lead is pretty much theirs. At this stage, there's no way you come back from this if you're Team WE. You're trying to find a desperate team fight. That's something that composition can do. That might be why EDG have chosen to group up as a higher priority.
I mean, when you have a Caitlyn and you have a Gangplank, if one crit just hits a squishy, then that completely turns the team fight. And as this game goes on, you know, Gangplank is getting bigger and bigger. He's on 3 items right now. Give him another, 10 minutes or so, and EDG will get to the point where WE are able to challenge them. But obviously, that's 10 minutes of play, and WE have to defend for all of that time.
That's pretty impossible to defend from with the Baron up in 1 minute and 35 seconds as well, respectively. So you try defending that one. Of course, they've got the Caitlyn traps. They've got the Galio wave clear with the Proto Belt, but a lot of that is useless against the Baron buff team. The only thing that comes to mind as the most important part to get through is navigating Caitlyn traps.
Trying to wade through those ones, and Haro is getting bigger and bigger. He's starting to build a bit of armor now. Looks like he's going towards the Gargoyle's Stone Plate, so it will be easy for him to just step up, tank the damage, let Xayah get in there.
Yeah, what we haven't seen as well from EDG is the Banner of Command. I feel like that'd make their life significantly easier in this game. They could get it on Haro right now as his 3rd item if he would like, but he's seemingly optimizing. He's going towards his Stone Plate, perhaps, getting as much resistances as he possibly can and being a frontliner for his team. It's a fairly short-range composition from EDG, so it needs to survive for a very long period of time, and Gargoyles would help a lot with that. But if he had a banner, they wouldn't need to team fight.
They would just win.
They could protect the banner.
they could. But Haru definitely looking towards these team fights. I think you hit the nail on the head there. Who's going to build it? Probably Haru. You can also look towards Mako, of course, in the bottom lane if he's got any spare resources. But
He's about 10 minutes away.
Yeah, he's gone Zeke's Convergence and Redemption right now, so he's quite a ways off it. And Ray's in the side lane and there's a Fiora, so he probably doesn't want it either.
Yeah, that is the Rakan Zarya special going towards the Zeeks. You don't often see it on many other champions. It works so well with Zarya amplifying damage output. Rakan being able to proc both the ice and fire aspects of it.
Yeah, it is actually a pretty sizable DPS increase. And EDG just playing it safe, pushing in the lanes, all 3 lanes at the same time, pushing up the vision, and then maybe even just duoing the Baron because they have a Cassiopeia and a Haru right here.
Take a look at the minimap.
DPS.
No one is able to get near the area. Look at the vision control. It's nicely spread across. There's no chance the WE are getting near this whatsoever. Instead, they're looking to 5-man the Fiora in the bottom lane, maybe get a kill off her, remove the Baron from the split pusher before they start to try and crash, but it's not going to happen. Now it's maybe even a red buff. If they're lucky, they'll get this red buff and then disengage.
Yeah, nice attempt there from WE, just looking towards a play that they could possibly make in this game because they couldn't go towards the Baron. Is already down. Bot lane is the only exposed member, but he can just back off. EDG finding in a trap because WE was slow on the recalls, take out the inhibitor turret in the mid lane and expose the inhib.
Exactly. The problem with what Team WE tried to do just then with their cheesy little play, perhaps moving through the jungle, is that they didn't defend their mid lane. They leave it exposed. They let EDG just walk up and take it away for free. And now that is very hard to defend. Caitlyn traps can't really defend an entire inhibitor if EDG are able to break into the base. They just need to walk through this current line, and they're good to go.
On the 2v1 in the bottom lane, but Ray may actually get the better of them. The Grand Challenge has been issued, and he is carving up Magic right now. He has to back away.
He is just so strong, Ray. There's no point in having Magic down here at all. WE should just be wave clearing through their top laner. They're going again.
Flash over the wall with 4 members. Maybe they can take out Ray, but the mechanics, he flashes away, and Ray's out of there. The rest of the team will move towards the mid lane.
EDG able to push forwards. Now Ray has the teleport, so he can come in and contribute to the team fight if he wants. There's no minion wave to work with. Bottom is actually running towards the top lane. They want to set up more waves at once. They're so cautious.
They really are. They have Baron buff, they had Ray split pushing, but EDG, they back away, again consolidating resources, but they are playing it extremely safe right now.
Like, they know they're ahead. Everyone knows they're ahead. They just send 3 people bottom lane to try and deal with Ray, but still the rest of the map chooses to play it cautiously, play it safe and back away. Just makes you wonder, EDG, they probably could have done something more by now, but they are taking the minimum at every moment.
Absolutely are. Ray's actually going to change the lane that he's in, his lane assignment, moving towards the top side now. Actually, 3 members of WE are actually here to meet him, so he's going to wait a little bit before revealing himself. iBoy will move to the bottom lane, so we've got kind of the makings of a 1-3-1 with Haru in the jungle, but what's the reason for EDG just stalling right now? Because WE, surely that's a good thing if EDG just don't end here, that WE can buy some time, they get more crit on Caitlyn, more crit on the Gangplank, and they can actually challenge in team fights.
Yeah, at first you feel like perhaps they're just paying a lot of reservations and a lot of respect to Team WE, but EDG are also looking towards item spikes before they step up. It is hard to step forwards against a Galio Leona. It's hard to step forwards as a Zarya against a Caitlyn. And Gangplank's always got the kegs if he wants to contribute. And now that there's not a lot of map left, I can understand why EDG want to be slow. But it seems like they've got item spikes. They've just decided it's time to go.
And now it's time to head into the fight. Mako will get a massive charm off, and Ray is slicing and dicing up the front line. iBoy is unlocked as well. No one can even touch him right now. And with 2 kills down onto WE and the West mortally wounded, I don't think they can re-engage. But 957 is going to give it his best shot. He's going to instantly die in this miasma. And Magic, he's going to follow as well. A clean ace, 5-0, and EDG stomp out WE.
They'll be able to get the victory here. A clean finish in the end from EDG. It was slow, but it was methodical.
And that's going to be game 1, going over to EDG. It took a little bit, but they managed to finish off in the end.
It was never really a moment where they weren't in control, however. EDG did know what it took to finish the game off, and I think playing it slowly, playing around Ray and giving him a chance to contribute was what meant the most in the end. Being able to get that Fiora rolling. 1v2s, 1v3s, it didn't matter for Ray. It was a man on a mission.
Yeah, it was really just a momentary concern of how long is EDG going to take, but They knew they had a goal in mind. We are going to pull the trigger at some point in the next 5 minutes. We're just not going to rush it and give WWE a chance to come back into the game. That's going to make sure that everything is taken away and they strangle them out. And EDG, while the early game was very back and forth, we saw all of these skirmishes, EDG eventually managed to just pull ahead, and you can see that massive climb to power.
And Ray shows a bit of mastery on his 17th top lane pick in the LPL respectively as well, and Scout in particular is the man that you'd have to look towards. I would be super surprised if he doesn't get the MVP for the way that he was able to play highlight reels coming from the mid laner of EDG, and it shows once again, W are a good team, but when EDG are playing closer to their best, when Scout's playing on form, then it's very hard to beat EDG. They've proven that they can take out Team W at least in one game of this set, and that they can actually win games without just having to play around iBoy. They don't have to play iBoy Mako compositions, doesn't have to be the Cogmore, they don't have to 5-man dive bottom lane all the time if they don't want to. They can use Scout.
But it also shows like what both teams are looking for right now, because of course you have EDG fighting over first with Snake, and then you look towards WE and it's a very different story. They're actually looking towards BLG and actually confirming a playoff spot right now.
Absolutely.
So for these teams, it's different battles, different things that you have to look towards, and you can see that difference in this game.
And you would say that the win is important regardless of both respective teams. I am certain that WE will come back as a rejuvenated team in Game 2.
We definitely are expecting a 3-game set, but for now we are going to send it back to the analyst desk.
Thank you so much, guys. And while you guys may be expecting a 3-game set, I'm not so certain after that EDG Game 1. Scout looks to be on form, and that's what we were talking about a little bit. You know, Xie has been the fire for WE, and if Scout can keep him penned down, well, what do WE have?
Yeah, that's a big question. And if I look at the drafting phase, I actually feel like WE had some good answers to what EDG was able to throw at them, but they won out through pure mechanical skill. The lane I'm talking about is the bot lane, Caitlyn and Leona running a double counter into the Rakan and Xayah, but still losing 2 kills early on in that lane, which is very surprising for me. And also this draft also exposes the weakness in 957's pool. He pretty much only has 2 champions. He's like, coach, what do you want? Do you want Gnar or do you want Gangplank? And it's like, Gnar's banned and we'll run Gangplank.
I guess we'll take the Gangplank then?
And that's such a huge risk in this meta, because if you look at EDG's comp, they really don't need the Fiora. The Fiora is there purely to punish the 957 champion pool. Like they actually just, they know that there was going to be no answer. He counterpicked it. He did very well with the 4-1 type of composition here. So EDG, they're throwing a lot of threats that W can't really answer, and they're threats that aren't supposed to be there. They're threats because I simply outplayed you.
Yeah, and this is where we have to commend EDG for finally starting to step up with the likes of Haro now on the team, that we are seeing multiple pressure points from Edward Gaming. Ray is able to take carries in the top lane. Scout in the mid lane on that Cassiopeia is still super powerful. And of course, there's always iBoy in the bottom lane.
Yeah. So the only issue I have with EDG this game is I feel like they could have changed all of their sequencing could have been a bit better. Their 2 kills were actually flipped over towards WE's side. They were able to punish with Olaf, with Magic coming down into the bot lane a couple of times. That they could clear up a little bit if they got Haro there on the same page with the bottom lane. But otherwise, EDG is rolling. They're really hot right now, and I think a lot of it is when you start seeing Mako and Scout link up in those mid-game team fights, when that Cassiopeia is going, like, is firing off.
Actually popping off,
Yeah, and Mako with such clear rotations and CCing everyone so Scout can come in and finish that off. That's where EDG really shines. They're one of the scariest mid-game teams.
Yeah, and of course you're referring towards that fight at the Raptor camp, which looked like things might go a little bit sour for EDG as WE tried to force the fight, but then Scout puts his finger on the trigger, pulls it, and forces the turnaround.
Yeah, there's a lot of good plays here. The flash out from Haro, very good, dodging everything, and just watch Mako keeping Xie inside of the fight, not letting him go away. And things look pretty dicey for EDG for a moment right there, but just look at how they recover. iBoy's low, goes for the honey fruit. Mako again with another big play, blocking everything, and Scout going in, grounding 3 people. There was nobody that could use their CC to stop his damage output, and then he finishes off with a triple kill into the man of the match for us right here. 31% of his team damage. I believe that would even top iBoy's contributions to the team so far. And it's just, he's been on a roll so far. I don't understand what's happened to him, but I'm guessing that part of it is because of the champion. Cassiopeia is a frontline mage, and that's what Scout really does excel at. You don't want him to be playing like backline to frontline, you want him in the frontline because that's where he wants to be naturally.
The plays that we see him make on the Azir is when he's in the middle of 4 people and he can Azir sec and reset the positioning of the fight. Of course, that said, EDG, they are now one step closer to locking in the semi-final berth. Of course, they're still competing against Snake for that final spot. But WE, on the other hand, they might be sweating a little bit because with BLG's win, taking a look at the standings right now, WE are still in the middle at 8 and 7, with BLG just ahead of them at 9 and 7. And FPX are right behind them. If WE lose this, their next matches aren't going to get any easier, knowing that pressure is hanging over them.
And you do have to remember FPX actually recently defeated WE. So the answer, the question for WE is like, who is going to stand up and carry? And it really does come down to Magic and the mid lane in Xiye. The bot lane, they already had a very good matchup against Rakan Xayah. Couldn't make it work. 957, I don't expect him to suddenly pull out different champions. So, again, it's going to have to come down to Xiye, Magic, trying to get early ganks off. That's the way W can win.
And this is sometimes why we find ourselves commending Xiye for stepping up so much for his team and actually allowing them to win, because it's the other lanes that are sort of falling through. Mystic's positioning is a little suspect at times, though. It seems like, at least in that game, he was able to fix it on that Caitlyn. And again, 957 with that champion pull in the top lane. Still, though, they've got another game to play up against WE. With the knowledge now that EDG are playing at a higher gear, is there a chance that they could bring us to a game 3? And how do you see this happening?
Well, the only way I see it happening is ganks, and ganks happening early in the mid lane to really get Xiye snowballing and to move Xiye into other lanes, because pretty much the top lane is on fire, the bottom lane is on fire. You're only looking at one place that can really hold the entire thing together.
Xiye is sitting in the mid lane like, this is fine.
Yeah, and they have to do it early because EDG is so good with mid-game tempo. If you allow them 2 steps early at the Baron pit, you're going to have to face check and they're going to kill your entire team, or they're just going to steal the Baron. So it has to happen early, and it has to happen in a very big way for Xiye.
Well, we'll have to see if they can do that. We've got a quick break on our hands. Don't go anywhere. The LPL will be right back with Game 2 between WE and EDG.